Hello, let's talk about The Emperor's Babe, a novel in verse by Bernardine Evaristo, 2001 novel. Now, I should preface this that 3 years ago I watched Mike Frost do a review of this book and said, "Hey, I'll go and read that," after listening to his review and him doing a bit of a reading of the thing. I have not gone back to that review. I will link it down below. It'll be interesting to see exactly how much of his review I've taken. I don't remember anything from it, but I very well might be parroting all his points. So depending on how much you like this book and how much you don't want to see my face, you could just go and click away to his review right now, because it was a really great review. Mike is a poet, and really good intertwining of a reviewer and subject, I'm sure, in that review. It did take me 3 years to get to it, so let's not wait any further. In the interim of me actually picking this up, Evaristo won the Booker in 2019. Then it was like, oh, do I want to watch? Do I want to pick it up or not? Finally, I did pick it up, and I was really happy to get to finally read this novel in verse. It's a black girl growing up 1800 years ago in Roman London. She Zucalia, her parents are Sudanese immigrants who've decided, well, we'll go to the edge of the known world, to some complete backwater, to make our way to, this is somewhere where we can have space. It's the Wild West, where we can actually make our fortune. And a part of that is marrying their child off to a successful Roman businessman. And that happens. And also the next thing that happens is that Zucalia, a couple of years later, catches the eye of the Libyan outsider Roman emperor himself in England, to conquer all these crazy barbarians and bring England into the Roman Empire. Septimus Severus, where she indeed becomes the emperor's babe. So it's all written in verse, which I've read other books in verse, although the other one that I did read, which I'm not going to remember the name of right now, was in rhyming couplets. This doesn't seem to have the rhyming couplets thing. It is organized in sort of here, I pulled up my Kindle. That's what I actually read it on. It is organized in kind of poetic form, but you could be reading it through and just think, oh wow, this has got beautiful language, but you might be forgiven to actually forget at some points that this is something that is written in poetry, until suddenly you go, oh wow, it is poetry. Let me read you a little section here. They're organized sort of like poetic sections. This one is Venus winks at lovers' games, and this is when the emperor is in the scene now. Venus winks at lovers' games. Songbird surprise was my favorite dish, and I knew it would be his. From first sighting, I had imagined being crushed into the imperiale's purple robes of Emperor Septimus Severus, his sword drawn out of its gold and ruby scabbard and plunged into me ruthlessly. Oh, sweet death! We were together, finally, in my trachelium, a lyre player in the background, as we reclined on sofas, the low marble table laid out with a little spread, served in my floral red Samian crockery, small songbirds soaked in asparagus sauce with quail's eggs, dormice cooked in honey and poppy seed, salted fish with oyster dressing, my lord, milk-fed snails just for you, fried jellyfish, bear cutlets, sliced flamingo tongue marinated in turmeric and clove oil. Am filling my hunger, par-cooked courgettes, boiled whole, sautéed peacock brains melt in my mouth. You look across, am stuffed, dates torn between my teeth, sow's udders lark's tongue in garlic, spiced with perfume peacock, feathers and peppered rose petals, sweet wine cakes to follow, olives with thyme is on our side, all drowned down with finest African wine. We were silent, letting oils drip over lips and chins, watching each other, lick it up with acrobatic tongues. He was solid, like a gladiator, my Libyan, my lover to be, my libidinous warrior, my belcher, his black eyes following the slope of my shoulders, my shimmering Circe gown, decollage fastened with sapphire clasps set in gold, flattering my shining bazookas, the rise and fall with each excited breath. He was in Britannia, waging war, he said, would leave when the whole of Caledonia had been taken, from Hadrian's Wall to the Anotine Wall, and way up to the North Sea. His marriage was impossible, he said. His wife had gone from swan to donkey. He knew Felix, her husband, well, and had often dined with him at his villa in Rome. News to me. He called me to him, nibbled my neck, his harsh bristles scratching my delicate skin, stuck his tongue down my ear, making me squeal, growled, "Are you ready for war?" So I think that gives you an idea of sort of the language, the exuberant language in this. And yes, Zucalia is a poet, wants to become a poet. And while this is sort of more from her head, and we get some glimpses of her as a poet throughout the thing, and how far she's able to go, the text of the book allows her to sort of unleash herself, her exuberant, wonderful self. I really thought of, and I think Mike probably mentioned as well, I thought of Catullus while I was reading this, a Roman poet of about the same period. And the great thing with Catullus is that he sounds so modern, and I think a lot of the translations sort of embrace that. It sounds like a contemporary voice talking about, his lovers and how he's pissed off at his girlfriend, and it's like you could see this just playing out now. And this text, you got that "time is on my side" little joke in there of the Rolling Stones suddenly poking up in this text, and that's a part of that kind of drawing you in of like, this is a modern tale in a lot of ways. This is a young woman who's like young women everywhere. Now, this is a young woman who, with her rich Roman businessman, gets to have slaves, and the slaves aren't black women. They're not Romans. They are the barbarians that have been captured outside of the Roman thing and taken back in and enslaved, sort of making you remember that, racists might say that, oh, slavery is about because it's, it's inferior colored skin, but that slavery, that sort of stuff, is all about power and who has the power to subjugate who, and has nothing to do with genetics and stuff like that. So there is that in there. And it's such a exuberant poem. It is very intimate, and there is a thing of that it's not a big book. It's not a big book. It's very intimate. We're getting this kind of, it is Catullus focusing on his personal life, but you can expand it out. Yet it has got this kind of, it is so short that it crashes to an end. This is about Zuleika and her life, and kind of Bernardine Evaristo kind of laying claim to the fact that, hey, she being English, saying like, hey, black people have been here forever and ever, and also giving you the hint with the arc and the fate of Zuleika, why that is something that through masculine forces, through forces of race, gets erased all the time. And this is kind of one of these, hey, we discovered this on rolls somewhere, we discovered this poem and translated it and brought it to you now to say, hey, she was here, Zuleika was here, even though Zuleika, I believe herself, is just a creation. But it's that kind of idea of saying, hey, we should be rewriting history, even someplace that I think in outsiders, when they think of England, are thinking of English people, the whitest people on the planet. Well, maybe there's some Norwegians or Swedes who could maybe make a more of a thing for that. But how much the world is far more complicated than these just simple prejudices and biases and stereotypes of, oh, this is the world. No, it's much more complicated, and you can discover voices, vital voices like Zulika, that Bernardine Evaristo. It discovers. And I can see this being made into, probably was made into kind of like a radio play or something like that, because it's a wonderful character study. It's not so much, it's not an epic. It's definitely lyric poetry that weaves you in and out of this amazing woman's life. So yeah, that is the Emperor's Babe by Bernardine Evaristo. It's a point I will actually have to pick up maybe in another 3 or 5 years. Girl, Women, Other, her novel that won the Booker Prize. Maybe I will at some point. It takes me a long while. Hey, Mike, I finally got to your recommendation. This is about probably par for the course for me. Either I pick it up immediately or 3 years down the line. But I got to it, and I'm very happy I did. Thanks, Mike. More videos later.